Okay, this bad boy is going on the YouTube, so let's do a live react, shall we? So this is for this, I was about to say for the starting Zoom screen. No, it's not. It's for the Diablo 4 developer update live stream. And this was broadcast on 23 hours ago. Cool, sick. It's an hour and 39 minutes long. Although this does say 24 minutes, so we can knock a chunk off. Cool. Hopefully we get a lot of stuff then. Let's see. Let's see where we can skip ahead. 25.
Forged as a refuge from the war between the high heavens and the burning hells. Instead, it became a new battleground in this eternal conflict. A secretive group called the Haradrim has kept mortals safe. But now this once powerful order is a husk of what it was. And Sanctuary's ancient creators have returned to claim the hearts of humankind. This is the story of their downfall.
I am a little confused between, because obviously there's supposed to be quite a tiny gap between Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. Obviously at the end of Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls, it was like, the Nephilim, they are uber powerful murder monsters. And this is the cinematic we were showing before, the intro cinematic when you first make your character. So this guy is technically a Nephilim, but he is Big Baby who hide in caves, so I'm a little confused. But perhaps that will be explained. Can we skip this because it's the same as before? You've seen this already. It's like, oh, okay, and then you start the game.
Hey guys, happy Tuesday. This is the second Diablo 4 developer live stream. My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community lead for the Diablo franchise, and I'm joined here by three wonderful guests. We have Meng Song, who is our lead system designer on Diablo 4. Of course, we got Art Peshkov, who is our lead world designer on Diablo 4. And everyone knows Joe Shelley, game director, Diablo 4. We're all here to talk about a lot of stuff actually today about Diablo 4. But I did want to throw out this fun fact because amongst these three gentlemen right here, we have 53 and a half, or no, it's 52 and a half years.
I want all of the like statues. I want the bear one, the Inaris one,
absolutely crazy.
Diablo skull.
I do want to ask, of course, for all of you guys.
What's his name? Spear.
What is the first Blizzard title each of you worked on? I'll start with Mong.
I started working on Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne, making multiplayer maps.
That's crazy.
Damn.
I was
been there a while.
Playing Warcraft 3, so yeah. Joe, yourself?
I started on World of Warcraft Burning Crusade.
Burning Crusade over here.
The first thing I worked on was the curator in Karazhan.
Nice. That was in the last season of Shadowlands and Mythic Plus. They brought back, I know, Karazhan and so forth. So, and then Art.
I started on World of Warcraft, the original. I was a QA analyst. I actually remember testing a bunch of Joe's balls.
Is that me? I assume not.
And so that just
oh, it's the camera.
Recent compared to everything else. But
Rip.
Yeah, we do have a lot of stuff. We have obviously amazing.
At least we know it's live now,
eh? A lot of stuff to actually talk about. And so, I mean, what you guys actually did just see during the countdown right before the stream was our intro cinematic for Diablo 4. That was actually revealed during the IGN FanFest broadcast earlier this month. What's cool is that it was completely done in engine. And so, like, you as a player can now essentially have your character that you create in Diablo 4 appear in all the in-game cinematics, which is really
I do think that's cool. It's not exactly like crazy wild and no one's done it before, but it's cool in a Diablo game.
We put so much more work into making the story immersive and...
Yep, that camera. Well, that scene is scuffed. And nobody's telling them. Rip. That's unfortunate. He's probably saying something really dope now as well, and we're just like, well then. Or he's sharing his favorite recipe for banana bread. Who knows?
You know, we asked our engineers to make sure that we could show our in-engine IGCs with really high quality, and also showing off the character that you've customized, because it's so important to be able to personalize your character.
And that's the really cool part about Diablo 4. This is kind of like the first Diablo game where you can really go into heavy customization. I mean, Diablo Immortal also had that as well, but Diablo 4's is like on a really crazy level as well. So it's gonna be really cool to see everyone's characters in different cinematics and so forth as you're kind of playing through the game.
On YouTube, there's no audio.
So live stream, we are figuring out YouTube audio issues if people are watching on YouTube right now. If not, we're good. Okay, we're good. Live streams, guys. Now you know it's for sure live. We're live as we figure out technical issues.
It sounds like they've also got the gain really high
pretty much
on the
show to
mics
actually kind of go through today.
instead of
We're
just
going
the
to be
volume.
giving extra information about the beta and what players are actually going to be experiencing.
Because you can hear loads of background
We
noise.
haven't talked about regarding beta that we will be talking about today. Mong is actually going to go over some armor systems in Diablo 4. We have a lot of people that have been asking about system-specific details within Diablo 4, and armor is incredibly important. And so we've got a lot of numbers and graphs to talk about today regarding that.
We brought some
And then Art is going to talk about essentially a new feature for Diablo, which is the Stronghold system within Diablo 4. So a lot to talk about.
Okay.
One quick
We're
thing
getting
that
some
we did
juicy
want to
bits
call
then.
out really quickly, which is the Inaria statue, which is behind me, as I'm like trying to like showcase myself in my hands here. But the Inaria statue, this was announced earlier.
Hello,
this
cameraman, who's not aware of the
and
shot
we
that he's
ended
in.
up actually putting this up on the gear
That's
store.
totally
And what's
someone
cool
grabbing
about
him like
this,
me.
Statue is that
Behave.
it is actually shipping right now. So if you, unlike the Lilith statue, which I know took like a few months to actually ship when that was announced, this one is shipping immediately. So
It looks
it's really
huge.
cool looking. Thing is massive. Pairs really well with Lilith. You can have mom and dad
Isn't it
there.
like grand
It's great,
as well?
You know, I've seen pictures
it's a
on Reddit
pricey
of people
boy.
putting it like side by side. Like some people already have the Inaria statue and they have it like side by side on their TVs in their living room. So it's actually really cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, there should be a QR code, I think, up on the screen now. So if you do actually scan the QR code, it does take you to the gear store and to
Scan code,
the page
spend
to
money.
check it out.
Do it.
But
Buy me one.
Beta is a big topic.
Beta's
Beta's
why we're here.
coming up, so we do want to actually talk a lot about beta itself. As you guys know, we did already announce the beta dates earlier this month. So for beta itself, it's actually going to be, we'll have an early access weekend, and then we'll have an open beta weekend. So early access is going to be on March 17th. We'll start on March 17th. And we actually have times of when it's going to actually start that weekend.
Yeah.
So we are planning on opening up servers at 9 a.m. Pacific on March 17th for early access. And it'll actually go through March 20th until noon Pacific time. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a
I think that's 4 or 5
more
my
of an
time.
opportunity beyond just the weekend, because
more
obviously
time.
time zones exist.
Time zones. We know people work on Saturdays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it gives you at least a little bit more flexibility, being able to try it out all throughout Friday and Saturday, and even into Monday, depending on where you actually live. The other really cool part about the first weekend of beta is that there will be 3 classes available for players to actually check out, and that is the Barbarian, the Rogue, and the Sorcerer. So players can actually jump into beta itself during that first weekend and try it out. Remember, early access beta is only available to those that actually pre-order. So if you haven't pre-ordered and want to jump in earlier, you most definitely can.
Yeah.
And then for open beta on March 24th through 26th, those will start at the same times as well. And that's at 9 a.m. Pacific and on the 24th, and then end on the 26th or on the 27th, shall I say, at noon. So it does go a little bit longer again. Time zones. So it gives a little bit more of a time for people to jump in. And
That's not confusing.
A special thing about that second weekend is
Well, you'll get access to 2 additional classes. So you can play all 5 classes, which is important to us because
Why are they staggering it
the
though? Why don't
the second weekend in particular,
I'm
we want to get
perplexed.
as many people as possible onto the servers. We want to stress test the game to make sure that all of our server infrastructure is in good shape for launch. And we want to get feedback on balance. So we want to have all the classes available so everyone can.
I said this
check out
before
the
in another
balance,
video. Like
and we can take
the amount of
advantage
balancing they'll get out of it wouldn't be
Exactly.
that
So
big.
again, during the early
Because obviously
access
the end
beta,
game
you'll
is what
have,
decides it.
You'll be able to play Barbarian, Rogue, and Sorcerer, and then during open beta, you can play Barbarian, Rogue, and Sorcerer, but you can also play the Necromancer and the Druid.
That's right.
So it's a good opportunity to kind of jump in, and as Joe mentioned, stress test the servers. Speaking of stress testing the servers, and
My
so we can get
intent
feedback and
is
so
to
forth
play all
before
of them
launch,
across both the
there is
weekends if
another,
possible.
Feature within beta that we're really
I'll
excited
probably
to
start
share
the game
about,
with
which is,
Rogue.
world
Obviously that would
bosses.
depend on
We do have a world
what I
boss that
discover
will
through the
be,
beta.
active during beta, and there will be 4 different spawns on each Saturday of beta for players to kind of jump into and check out. And it's Shava, who is people probably remember.
Okay,
Shava.
so you can
Shava
only
is
play against the
the
Shava
first world
on
boss
the
that we
Saturday.
ended up revealing
Showed
back
off.
That's a
in
bit
BlizzCon.
poop, considering they were just talking about time zones and wanting everyone to have a
so
go,
players will
but
be able to
okay.
jump in. There's going to be
Sure
4
there's
different
reasons
times,
behind
like
it.
I mentioned, because again, we want to make sure that players from all around the world can actually jump in during beta during these moments, and it gives an opportunity for people to kind of experience like a whole new thing within Diablo 4.
Yeah, Shava's so cool. One of the really cool things about the world bosses is you can just show up there. There'll be other people for you to work together to defeat the boss. And these are huge bosses. The camera actually pulls out so you can get a better view of the battlefield. So you can see other people fighting the world boss at the same time. They have huge attacks that
Let
affect
people
a
zoom
very
out all
large
the
area
time.
of the world.
Be a nice quality of
and it's all
life.
seamless. You just show up
Accessibility
there, know
issue
the people.
in-
You don't have to have a group or organize anything in particular. You can just show up, fight a giant boss. It's super cool.
Yeah, and so world bosses up to 12 players can
That's right.
actually go against a world boss within Diablo 4.
That's cool.
And I know it's recommended usually to be 20. The 25 is the max level within beta itself.
Yes. And
so-
Shava's level 25.
There we go.
You're gonna
I feel
wanna
like
be
12 is a good
close to
number
that
for the
level,
bosses. Not too many, not too
if you're
little.
fighting
You don't
a
want
higher
it to feel
level boss
overcrowded.
or higher level
You don't want it to feel
monster,
empty.
You're going to be less effective. And we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about armor.
Perfect. That's a perfect opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about armor and so forth there. But yeah, the 4 different times and all the details and so forth and times that we just mentioned will actually be available on the beta blog that we do actually have up on Diablo4.com. So if people read that blog when we made the announcement about beta earlier this month, that blog will actually be updated after this stream with all those details. So make sure to check out and reference that blog for all the
I did not
details
read the
and
blog.
times and so forth that we kind of mentioned here.
I
Right,
just
and
watched
If you're
videos.
trying to get early access, you can pre-order the game like right up until or even during the early access period, and you'll get access to it.
Awesome. That's
We
really
expect
good
to have
hear.
a turnaround time of minutes to the most. It should be an hour or so until you get access.
Cool. And then a really popular question that we've gotten from the community is min specs and recommended specs. And I do want to note, if you're playing on console, on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5,
It's a Diablo
or,
game. They'll be
Xbox
like,
One or
this
Xbox
runs
Series
on
consoles,
a potato. You're fine.
That is also available for beta, so players will be able to actually jump in during beta on those consoles. But for PC, we actually do have those min specs and those recommended specs that we can showcase here really quickly for everyone. I think a huge shout out to our engineers here, because in Blizzard fashion, they've done a fantastic job at optimizing Diablo 4 to ensure that as many
9070,
players as
okay,
possible can actually enjoy this on PC.
1080p, 60
Yeah,
FPS.
We're continuing to optimize right
Yeah,
now.
okay.
As you said, like every Blizzard game. we
45
want to be
gig.
as simple as possible.
That's not bad to be fair.
Yeah, and I know we've gotten another big question regarding like PC specs and so forth. And
Recommended
one of them,
memory, 16 gig of
revolved around,
RAM.
like, ray tracing and everything like that.
That's right. Ray tracing will be coming after launch.
Yeah, so we'll have ray tracing available after launch for Diablo 4 specifically on that.
Have they
side.
showcased ray
We'll have these
tracing
min
as well?
specs and these recommended specs
In any,
also
like, vertical
available on
slices?
the beta blog after the.
I'd be very interested to see how good that makes the game look, considering how important lighting is in Diablo games.
and actually play Diablo 4 during the beta. Preload
To
is
set
another
the
big
mood,
popular question that we've done. There will be a preload available for the beta for Diablo 4, and that will actually be coming about a week or so before the actual beta. And details on that will also be posted soon on the blog. So make sure to stay tuned to like Diablo social channels, and at the same time, just checking out the blog. We'll make sure to let people know when preload will be available, so you can be prepared and you can jump in right during the first minute of early access and so forth. And then another note about consoles is that
Can we just take a moment to appreciate how much Adam is a beef castle as well? Look at those arms. He could strangle like Goliath with those bad boys. I know it works out because I follow him on Twitter and he's like very into his weightlifting and stuff. I'm like, bloody hell, Adam. That's all I had to say.
you will be able to play co-op, couch co-op on consoles,
Yes,
which
that's
is
right.
really cool. So if you're playing on PlayStation or on Xbox, you can have another person join you and play on
Couch
and do co-op,
couch
which is
co-op
really
on
cool
Diablo
for
3
Diablo
was really,
4,
really fun,
and
and
for that
probably
Diablo
one of the reasons it was
experience itself.
successful.
And one thing to note is that you just need
Aside from like the
access to
hacking and
second
stuff,
person,
I would
and
argue it was
you
probably
will
one of my
need
favorite
access
things about
to
Diablo 3.
a Battle.net account of some sort to be able to experience couch co-op.
Each person will need a Battle.net account. That's
Exactly. You can create up to 10 characters per BNet account up for the beta, so you can actually experiment and try, like, if you want to go through the beginning again or something with like a whole new character or whatnot, you most definitely can.
It's a lot of. I don't know how anyone could really have to.
Maybe you're
You
indecisive.
could create 10 different characters, but there's so much content in the beta. It's a really sizable look at the
Yeah, and I know a lot of people ask about progress between early access and open beta, and like how that actually does carry over and so forth, or if it does carry over specifically from that end.
Yeah, so your progress will carry over from early access to open beta. So that'll give you more time to really get to level 25. Time to fight
Farm all the loot.
Shava if you didn't get access, if you didn't quite make it, and more time to fight it. You could go back and fight Shava. You can check out all of our side quests, all of the rest of the content in Fracture Peaks. There's, like I said, it's one of our 5 zones. And it's just a huge area to explore with so much content in it that there's plenty of stuff to do. But of course, your progress is not going to carry over to the shipping game because we want everyone to start fresh.
Exactly. So yeah, progress carries over from early access to open beta.
Sorry, I was watching, is it Art? He's just like,
over to the final game itself. But one thing we did want to announce, at least today,
that just tickled me. He's like, I don't know what to do with my face.
For players that actually do partake in the actual beta test, there's 3 different rewards that people can actually earn. 2 of them are specific titles that will carry over to the final game, and all these rewards actually do carry over to the final game. That's why it's so important.
I'm not against titles. I just don't care.
When you're actually playing through
Half the
game
time I
and so
try and
forth.
meme with them.
But the first title is the title itself is called Initial Casualty, which is earned when you reach Kyovashad within the game. And I'm sure people are like, what's Kyovashad?
Well, Kyovashad's the capital city of Fracture Peaks, which is the snowy, mountainous area of Sanctuary that the beta takes place in. And it's a big city. There's lots of stuff to do. It's not that far into the game. You'll play through the prologue, get accustomed to all of the mechanics and everything, start to get introduced to some of the characters, and then you'll arrive at Kyovashad. So it should be fairly straightforward to get this one.
Yeah, so people will be able to earn the initial casualty title within Diablo 4 by doing that. And then another title that they'll earn once they hit level 20 on at least just one character itself is an early Voyager title. So just get up to level 20 within the beta and you'll actually end up earning that title. And then last but not least, we actually have a really, I'm very excited about this one. It is a cosmetic reward that we are giving away to any player that does get that gets one character up to level 20, and it is a beta wolf pack. It's a cosmetic. It is quite possibly the most adorable thing in the whole entire world.
No.
But
okay, that is cute.
It is a little wolf like pack that you can actually carry around.
I can see that there'll be some people like, oh, why is there a cute wolf on my back? It's not Diablo, is it?
You can be slaying demons with the
Let's be real, that's cute as hell.
Behind you, which is absolutely I'm super
yeah.
stoked
No,
about
he's-
it. So,
I have no idea why I would carry
We're
a
showing it
small
on the
puppy on my back,
barbarian
but
here, of
it looks
course,
cool.
but,
It's very cute.
It's wearable by any class, so you get to level 20, which takes some time. It's going to take some effort, but you can get this little pup who will follow you on your travels.
it's awesome. So yeah, this will carry over to the
Like,
final
it is
game,
a little
and,
bit
it is
like
for all classes. So you just
why
need to get one character
in
to
terms of
level 20,
theme, but
and you'll get,
sure. I'd
one
probably use it.
early Voyager title, and
I
two,
like
you'll get
those.
the beta wolf pack. So make sure to jump into beta and actually get a character to 20, so you can have your own wolf pack for launch itself. So there's a ton of that. I know we just gave out a ton of information about beta here today. Again, this will all be on our beta blog on Diablo4.com immediately after the stream. So make sure to check out all the details and the times and all the requirements, for instance, to get those titles and the beta wolf pack itself. Oh, and one last thing, I completely forgot. During beta, we actually have another live stream planned, and that is going to be on the 24th. It'll be the first day of open beta, but we're going to do a community play live stream, so it gives you guys an opportunity to actually play with the Blues, essentially, the employees here at Blizzard, some people from the dev team and the community team.
Like, I want more info. I know when I'm playing the beta. I'm busy playing the beta.
Lots of information about beta. Glad we got to showcase and talk about it all here today. We're going to jump into the armor systems discussion here with Mong now. And I know that the community has been really asking, especially our hardcore fans of Diablo, have been asking more details about systems and so forth. So we actually do want to jump into
Could we
a
get
little bit of a deep dive into
an
the armor
insight
systems
into
of
how
Diablo 4. So,
much depth
Mong,
there is, perhaps?
take us through it.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about the armor system. So in Diablo 4, armor is the major way for player to mitigate incoming damage, especially physical damage. The major way for people to acquire armor is through the 5 armor slots. There are helm, chest, pants, boots, and gloves. And mostly for fantasy reason, we made armor, chest armor, and pants provide the most armor value, while boots and gloves provide the smallest amount of armor value. The armor value on an item is depends on the item's power. And in Diablo, we use the item power value to represent the power of the item.
Yeah,
And
I don't think we've talked a lot about how item power works. Can you describe what it means for Diablo 4?
So
yeah, so in
scripted.
Diablo 4, the item
Bless us.
when they start dropping, it's based on the monster's power, and we need a value to represent how powerful this is. Like when you start getting more challenging content in the later world tier, you'll see you'll get more and more powerful item, and we need something to evaluate that, then represent that power. So we use the item power to represent.
So does that mean you can
power.
get a
And you
unique
can
that
see
has
it
like item
on the
power
items too.
potato in World
And
Tier
if you-
1
like,
and then
you
the
can
same
compare the
unique
two
in
items.
World
If
Tier
the
2? Would it
item
be
has
more
higher
powerful?
Item power. That means that item most likely going to be more powerful than the lower item power item.
But not always, right?
Not
there
always.
might be specific affixes or things
Yep.
that are especially powerful for your build.
I think in
Yeah,
like in terms of uniques is what I mean.
And back to the armor value. The armor value actually directly tied to this item power on those armor items. It's actually scaling linearly with those item power. The higher the item power, the more armor value that item provides.
And that's so that we know that we have some baseline for how much damage mitigation the player has.
Exactly. Because of this, when you loot higher power items, you naturally gain higher amount of armor. And therefore, it's guaranteed you always have a certain amount of damage mitigation against physical damage.
And so, so armor works differently in Diablo 4 than it did in Diablo 3, right?
Yeah.
In particular for elemental resistances.
Yeah, exactly. Like in
I
Diablo
don't think I ever
4,
actually paid attention to them in Diablo 3. I don't recall.
So this is kind of like a long story. Like Because of the mechanic, we made sure the item, the player have a certain amount of damage mitigation against the physical damage. But then we found out some monster they are doing non-physical damage, and that caused trouble for the player.
That dude
like
looks
for
sick.
example, there's a dungeon boss only deal shadow damage, and that caused some serious balance problem for the encounter team, because for people who have a reasonable amount of shadow
sword looks
resistance,
cool.
that boss is not that hard. But some people, like when they have zero shadow
That guy
resistance,
has stolen Adam's
the boss
arms
is
and
almost
they're using them for
unbeatable.
legs.
They will always get one shot
Chunky they are.
for this boss.
And players at low level, they might not have access to as much shadow resistance. They might not be as
Exactly.
familiar with the game.
Exactly. So to solve
Okay,
this
so
problem,
armor gives you a
what we
small
did
amount of
is we made some
res as
changes to
well,
the armor
or res,
system.
which is kind of what
So armor,
last epoch does.
not only
I think.
absorb or mitigate incoming physical damage, we also make it absorb a certain amount of non-physical damage. So how it works
Druid
is like
looks sick.
this: for whatever percentage the armor absorb physical damage, it also absorb half of that amount of non-physical damage. For example, your armor absorb 60% physical damage, so your armor will also absorb 30%
Damn.
of all the non-physical damage.
So fire damage, shadow damage.
Now that
Exactly.
is a
And,
beef
And
castle.
because of this, people now also gain some amount of, not a big amount, but some amount of
No, druids can use axes as well. Cool.
mitigation against non-physical damage. So that shadow boss
You always
is
see them
still
with the
challenging
staff in
for
like
people with the
all the
zero shadow
reveals they've done.
resistance, but it's in a much more controllable way.
And as players level up and they get access to higher world tiers, those world tiers actually have a penalty to your elemental resistances, right? So you're going to have to really make sure that you're keeping up on those resistances.
Yeah, exactly.
Standard. I
When you
pulled this
get
silly
to
face because I was
higher
like, that
world
man's
tier,
holding a log.
we
Looks cool,
we
but he's
added
definitely holding a
more,
log.
penalties
The
for
rogue.
player to make the higher world tier more challenging. And so you will have we put some 20% penalty from world tier 2 to world tier 3 for the resistance. So you gain 20% less resistance. And from world tier 3 to world tier 4, we put even higher penalty. It's 40%. So world tier 4 will be a lot more challenging.
That
than
shoulder
World
guard is a bit
The players have access, as they're getting up into those higher levels,
Dangerous.
they're also getting access to more sources of elemental resistance, right?
Yeah, exactly. We added the elemental resistance into various in-game system, like a skill tree, like
Yeah,
item
that's the reason,
affixes,
yeah.
like a paragon system. You can acquire those resistance through more and more ways. We actually expose more and more ways for you to be able to acquire armor and resistance at the end game.
So I think you brought some charts to show, like in more detail, how the mitigation works.
Sure. So we have talked about like all the basic of how armor works. I want to dive a little bit deeper into actually how armor affect players' gameplay experience from level to level. The first thing I want to talk about is at each level we have a expected armor value for player, and based on that we calculate what's the damage reduction player can get at each level, and we balance the monster damage about that.
expected armor. So how have they calculated that? Because surely different builds will have different. Like if they just gone okay, like 'cause surely the rogue and the sorceress will inherently have lower armor values compared to like maybe the barb or whoever. Maybe they don't. Who knows? But I don't know. Like it feels like expected is a bit of a vague statement, I guess. But like according to this, like if you're level 21, you're expected to have around about 20 to 30 or 25 to 30% damage reduction. But you may have gone hella tanky. Although we don't know how the armor works. We don't know if there's like light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, if there is any penalties for those. Who knows? Maybe they'll talk about it. Maybe I should shut the fuck up.
And from this chart, you can see at the beginning, based on the expected armor value, you can only get a little above 10% damage.
The diminishing returns,
But
though.
it goes up pretty fast. And
Or
at the late game,
expected
you can get over 40% damage
diminishing
from
returns.
the armor value. It makes sense fantasy-wise because think about it. At the beginning, you have only this light leather pants. It absorbs a very small amount of damage. But at a later level, you get this epic plate armor that absorbs a lot more. Because of this,
So is everyone expected to have heavy armor
because of this,
toward late game?
the damage reduction going up, player also that means that we need to make the monster deal more and more damage to mitigate this damage reduction for the player.
Sure.
And this is next. I'm going to talk about how actually each unit armor absorb damage from level to level.
You can hear him whispering,
Yeah,
next
I think there's
slide.
a graph here. It goes through the
Yes.
armor.
So you see, it's opposite to how much damage reduction we expect for player to get from level to level. It's from lower to higher, but actually the damage reduction per armor is going down with level.
So per point of armor
Yes.
that I have, this is the chart that shows how much damage reduction that one single point of armor gives me
Yes.
at a given level. Okay.
And at the beginning, you can see from this chart,
That's weird. I feel like that's weird. So, to mitigate power creep, the higher you level up, the less effective your armor will be. Not just because the monsters themselves have gotten stronger, but because your actual armor is literally not as effective. So even if you had say you had 100 armor, it's an arbitrary number, but you had 100 armor, you level 98, 99, and then you level up to level 100, your armor becomes slightly weaker because you leveled up. It's kind of weird. I would hope that there's something I'm missing, like a balancing aspect, but surely if you're leveling up, the monsters are going to be higher level already anyway and thus have more damage. Or more armor penetration, or whatever, or elemental penetration, and things like that. So it just seems a bit redundant doing lots of little things to have the same effect that just doing one thing would potentially be able to do. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That seems a bit weird.
Every 100 armor can absorb about 5% of damage reduction. But it goes down pretty fast early and slow down at the end. And at the end, you can see it each 100 armor can only absorb 1% damage reduction. We make it work this way because we want to make sure that designer have room to add more armor bonus at the end game. We try to avoid the situation at the beginning you get to a pretty good amount of armor, then you totally forgot about this stuff. Early on we talk about we added a resistance penalty to for player from war tier to war tier. That's actually for a very similar purpose. Because of this penalty, even though you have a pretty good resistance at the early game, you still need to look for more resistance.
Sorry, I'm still hung up on the thing that you just said. So they're doing this because they don't want you to forget about armor. They don't want you to go, oh, I'm leveling up, I'm a beef castle, la la la, I've barely upgraded my armor. So they're going, okay, we're going to make it weaker so you actually try and get more of it. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how that plays out. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll work beautifully.
And there are other ways that players can get damage reduction too, in addition to armor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not only that they get this, that's kind of happen at the late game. When the challenger starts, they need to find a lot of other way. They can look for, for sorcerer's class, they can look for energy shield. For Druid and Barbarian, they look for fortified power, and for Rogue class, they look for more dodge chance. So not only they build on the armor and resistance to mitigate the damage, at the late game, because the challenge becomes so tough, the world becomes.
That's not damage reduction though. That was
so hard,
what he's just described. It's
they
just
need to find
different
multiple
forms
ways
of
to be
damage
able to survive in
mitigation.
this harsh world.
Like dodge isn't
So far, I have
damage
been
reduction. It's
talking
not
about,
getting hit.
like, all of this is one player fighting the equal level monster. So next I'm gonna talk like what if you fight against a different level monster? If a monster higher than you or a monster lower than you. So this chart shows a player with 2,000 armor. What happened? How much damage reduction it actually absorb for that 2,000 armor when they fight against different level monster. And you can see, like, the higher the monster level is, the less damage reduction this 2,000 armor actually.
It would help if we knew what level the player
you
was
can
in
see,
this.
like, at the lower level, they actually already like reached the damage reduction cap we set for armor, which is 85%. But when you like for 2,000 armor, usually the player can acquire this amount of armor around the level 30.
Right.
But if you see this level 30 character, when they fight a level 100 monster, the 2,000 armor can actually only absorb 5% of the incoming damage, which is pretty minimum. So that
Are they
means
saying in this chart
when
they
you
use the
want
level
a player
30?
for them to challenge a higher level monster, not only the monster deal more damage, they also penetrate more of your.
Because surely, like, the point I'm trying to get at is, for example, let's say this is a level 30, and the damage mitigation against a level 98 or 100, whatever, monster is 5%. But then, if you are level 100 against a level 100 monster with 2,000 armor, your armor isn't as good because of the slide that they just showed us. So surely it's not 5%. You know what I mean? Like, what level? I'm sure I could probably work it out based on what they just showed us, but I ain't got time for that. But shit.
Of your armor.
Like, it would just help to have a distinct number on screen.
During level up campaign, like while you're doing campaign, or you do the open world content, it's not a big issue because most of the monsters scale with you. But when you do the end game content like a Nightmare Dungeon or Helltide, a lot of time you are forced to fight higher level monster, and in those cases, you will take like this built-in punishment to for the player. So you need to like find a way to mitigate that. The more damage. Some people they build up their offensive power. They try to finish the combat faster so that they can take less damage. While other people, they find all the way like we said, going through Paragon system, skill tree, item affixes, and legendary power. Using all the
I wonder
ways
if we'll get
to mitigate
damage
that,
reduction as affixes.
harsh
I feel like I've seen it somewhere. Like Chaff Stop, String of Ears, and D2, for example.
In Diablo 4, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to talk about. So we used to not have a damage mitigation for monster. So monster used to not have armor. So however amount the damage player deals, that's however amount of damage the monster gonna take. So it has an advantage. It's pretty straightforward. It's really easy to understand. But it also has a problem that is whenever we want to increase the monster's defense power, the only way we can do it is through increasing the monster's hit point. Like we say, from level 31, a monster from level 31 to 32, we want to increase their defense power, the time to kill by 10%. That means level 32 monster gonna have 10% more hit point or life than the level 31 monster. If you do this from level 1 to level 100, and at the end it ends up with a super big number, like billions or even trillions. And for player to be able to kill this monster in a reasonable time, the player needs to deal like billions of damage. And in Diablo 4, we show this damage number as a floating combat text. We cannot hide it. And so because the number
Blizzard
is so
for some
big,
reason
so
just
long,
don't like
it
big
covers
numbers.
a big chunk of the screen.
Yeah, it's hard to understand too. Like,
Yeah.
Reading, combat in Diablo is really fast. You want to be able to quickly understand how much damage you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're trying to keep the numbers down.
Yeah. We try to solve this problem. Also, we get a lot of feedback from community. They also don't like this.
I know the community has talked a lot about like big damage numbers and so forth, and like Diablo 3, for instance, and so forth. So yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, we decided to add
Fair enough. I'm not aware of that, but I don't keep up with Diablo 3 that often.
So at each
nowadays,
level,
so, yeah,
monster actually absorb a certain percentage of players' damage. It's pretty low at the early level, and it goes up.
No, so for those confused, they've basically said they were initially using just a big health pool, and the health pool would get bigger the more they wanted that. Well, the higher the monster level, the bigger the health pool would get to make the time to kill it increased. Then that would result in big numbers, your hit numbers getting bigger and bigger and bigger as well, because you would get the damage to try and kill them as fast as you could. So what they've done is, in order to lower the size of the health pool, they've given monsters armor, much like our own. And that way, the visible numbers that appear on screen isn't like in Diablo 3, where it will say like 17.4 billion or 17.4 B or 7.4 T for trillion, stuff like that. So the numbers are just a bit more legible, probably just in the thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, who knows. So it has the same effect in terms of time to kill. It just means the health pool is smaller, so you don't have to have gargantuan numbers in order to kill them. So your damage numbers can be reduced as well.
At a later level, then in our playtest, it creates a different problem because this damage reduction going up pretty fast. Player actually deal less damage when they level up. That's not what we want.
I don't want to get weaker when I level up.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to take the damage reduction number for the monster so that it always scales slower compared to the damage increase. Damage increase for the player. So it's player's damage deal to the monster still increase from level to level, but now we have a pretty good way to control how fast it increases. And therefore, we get the damage number at a very late game into a pretty reasonable space.
That's good. Nice. Awesome. Well, I know we talked a lot about the armor systems here and
how fast it increases. And therefore, we have a pretty good way to control how fast it increases.
What is that way? What did I miss?
To the damage number for the monster, so that it always scales slower compared to the damage increase. Damage increase for the player. So it's player's damage deal to the monster still increase from level to level, but now we have a pretty good way to control how fast it increases. And therefore, we get the damage number at a very late game.
They're saying they're going to give monsters more armor if it turns out that you're too beefy at too soon a level.
Well,
okay.
I know we talked a lot about
I wonder if that's dynamic.
The armor systems here and even just
like if they're basically saying if you've got this much damage, we're going to give your monsters that you're fighting this much armor. I hope not.
In itself, but I do want to spend some time to talk
because that kind of kills the point of your build and upgrading your skills, at least during leveling.
Art, I know, has been focusing on Strongholds and has a lot to talk about. Strongholds themselves is a brand new feature within Diablo.
I assume it's due on expected damage.
So conceptually, Strongholds, they are places of importance to the world and the people of Sanctuary that have been overrun by evil. Pretty simple, right? So this way this ends up working in practice is as you're exploring and navigating the huge world of Diablo 4 in Sanctuary, there will be multiple strongholds in each of our 5 zones for you to discover. And these are completely unique. So each stronghold is a unique location. They have different stories. They have different gameplay objectives, bosses. Even some of the rewards are unique to each specific stronghold. So much like our campaign, these are private experiences. They're just for you or you and your party if you choose to bring some friends. So once you've completed the stronghold, then the space becomes something that we refer to as a public space, where you then might encounter and interact with other players if you want.
That's cool. So, like, what type of spaces can strongholds themselves end up kind of like changing to after you end up encountering them and maybe like conquering them or going through them yourself?
Yeah, so that's like actually one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about the system is that when you conquer a stronghold, there's a lasting impact on the world, and we actually unlock a bunch of additional content for you to explore and engage with after the fact. But I think I want to talk about that a little bit later.
All right. I think we have footage as well for the strongholds that we can actually like kind of throw up here, and maybe we can explain like what players are kind of experiencing or like.
Imagine that with RTX. I bet that was going to look sick.
Yeah, I did. I found it.
Nice.
I found a clip on the floor.
Found a clip.
The stronghold you're looking at here, this is called Hope's Light. In the jagged shores of northern Scotland, there's this great lighthouse called Hope's Light, and its flame has been extinguished.
You can see where they've clearly taken inspiration from Lost Ark, like things like that.
The port town of Merrin nearby is particularly affected. It's the only port town in all of Scotland.
Which isn't a bad thing. I actually love that about Lost Ark.
Obviously, the sailors of these perilous waters, they kind of
The little traversal
so your kind of
breaks
high-level
between
objective is just to find
features
the
of
path
land or whatever.
to the lighthouse and figure out what happened. As the player, when you arrive there, you notice the Drown have risen. The Drown are this brand new monster family in Diablo 4. They're these super mysterious creatures that kind of shamble up onto the shores from the depths of the sea.
Mysterious.
They drag these like bells and mysterious idols with them. Nobody really knows like who they are or what they want. But one of the other things that we're
Is he implying that they're more than just undead?
Is to try and showcase these monster families, kind of give you a glimpse into.
I just assumed they were another type of undead.
Yeah, 'cause I
Undead,
know,
but
like,
from the sea.
Back during BlizzCon, we actually BlizzCon 2019, when we revealed Diablo 4, we actually did showcase the Drown for the first time. And then since then, I know we had a quarterly update blog that talked a little bit about monster families, where we even talked about like familiars, for instance, and so forth that were up there. But like, yeah, this is kind of like
The way you said that, it's got me curious now. Like, are they not part of Lilith's army? Are they just another big bad that are hanging around and are really inconvenient?
Legendary. I never knew what it was because I was playing with the UI off.
The mage fist. Look at him.
Actually, that might be going back to kind of strongholds at the
Gauntlets.
system level, and kind of like why you, the player, might care. Strongholds, they provide you with a lot of really awesome rewards. Obviously, you slay a bunch of monsters, you kill a boss, you're going to get a bunch of.
If I remember rightly,
loot.
the globes are
Beyond that,
top-ups for your
strongholds
potion
also reward you
thing,
with a high
right?
amount
They're not
of
just
renown.
straight-up globes.
Renown is another new system in
I wasn't a fan of how
Diablo 4.
globes in Diablo 3.
To quickly summarize that, Renown, it rewards you with engaging with various open world activities. You gain Renown in each of the 5 regions of the game, and when you hit certain milestones of Renown, you'll get rewards. You'll get really cool stuff like additional potion charges, skill points, even Paragon points at the later milestones.
That answers that question.
Beyond all this, like strictly, gold, XP, loot, Renown, beyond all this strictly character progression stuff, I mentioned before, conquering a stronghold has a lasting impact on the world and unlocks a bunch of additional content. When you've completed a stronghold, and in some cases you've kind of cleansed the evil as much as it can be in a world like Sanctuary, people feel safe enough to come back, and so some strongholds will actually become towns after they'll have vendors, waypoints. Other strongholds might unlock a shortcut path to a different area, a waypoint, side quests. Many strongholds actually unlock dungeons. So, if you are hunting for aspects in the Codex of Power, or you're engaging with the Whispers of the Dead or Nightmare Dungeons endgame.
Basically, you are an idiot if you see a stronghold and you're like, nah.
just like
By the sounds of things, they're going to be pretty vital.
Power, so, obviously going through dungeons ends up unlocking or finding new codexes. Actually completing strongholds will unlock new dungeons that will let you get more codex.
Did summon
or
someone?
more
I
powers
thought he
within
did,
codex
like a little
itself. So,
barbarian
it kind of,
spirit.
opens up more and more,
Who
especially
did like the
with
shockwave thing?
Strongholds itself. That's awesome, and the fact that it's a lasting impact on the world is pretty crazy. Can you see?
I saw some of
Strongholds,
the
on map,
like
as
leaked
you're,
footage.
like,
The barbarian was looking a little
absolutely.
lackluster,
Just
but
like
that's cool.
any other area of the game, you know, it starts as kind of undiscovered space, and then once you've discovered it, they show up on the map. They have some iconography to let you know that hey, there's.
Although I'm a
content that you
little
can go
concerned that this is
nice. And then
later
players themselves will
campaign,
see tons of these all throughout,
or potentially
all of,
later
like,
campaign.
Sanctuary that they can actually either maybe like do a little bit later.
And
or back
time to
and
kill is a
forth on that side.
little
absolutely.
bit
There's,
long.
like I said, there's multiple strongholds in every region, and one of the strongholds actually have like a minimum level, so you might actually you know, discover one that you're just under leveled for. There's nothing stopping you from trying to take it on, but you're probably gonna die.
Unless you're playing hardcore, and then you
Well,
probably
then you
don't.
then you make a new character because you died.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you question it a little bit. Yeah. So, and that's another question we get a lot is like, is hardcore?
I was kind of hoping they were going to innovate on like
So
the
that's when you would
monster
question
mods a
the idea
bit,
of wanting
but that's
to
Plague,
try to
isn't it?
conquer a stronghold at a lower level.
We saw
So,
Frozen earlier, I think.
But yeah, with the and a lot again, this is just a.
I hope they
a
don't have that
brand new
stupid
feature for Diablo 4
spinning
itself,
arcane
so
orb on.
it
I
actually
hated that.
allows you to
I felt like it was really out of place, like
continue
aesthetically.
to add additional content to the game and change the world completely, because the fact that you can actually get new waypoints or you know, a whole new town that you
Waller.
can actually interact with new, you know, vendors and so forth from that side is also just completely like game changing from that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the new content that you unlock, it is also kind of like part of the renown system. So you complete a stronghold, and you get you know, side quests. And
I wonder if
dungeons,
there's
and all
a,
these things
because
also
it looks like
feed
he's getting a
the renown
debuff
system.
because of the broken chain.
There's a lot
I'm
of
wondering
cool
if there's
stuff,
an actual like,
kind of completing a
when the
stronghold
UI is
kinda
properly
like
up, a
only
way
half
to show
half of the feature, right?
Yeah.
And the other half is
like
all
how
the
much
content
is on it,
that's unlocked out.
like in PoE, for example. Like,
Yeah,
oh, it's a 30-minute or 30-second debuff or whatever.
I know, like myself, I mean, I played the game. People will be able to play it really soon, but the perks of working at
You heard
Blizzard.
it here first. We play the game.
We play the game. The perks of working at Blizzard. But yeah, it most definitely is a cool feature, and I you know, had Strongholds completely change like the whole entire map, and just having like even a waypoint closer to wherever you need to go for a dungeon is also really great to have. So. Of course, and Art provided here this footage here of a barbarian kind of going through. And I know this barbarian has got like some legendary type of gear and like some unique skills.
So he's in beefy gear.
Modified based off the gear. So trying to show off a little bit of a higher level barbarian for people.
I know some people want Zoomer
Fun to play.
fly around the screen shit.
Cool.
And I know that doesn't necessarily have to be Diablo, but it is looking a little slow. Maybe he just has a crap build. Who knows? But
People were hoping that we spend a little bit more time on Q&A, and we most definitely want to spend some time on Q&A. So we will kind of like jump into some questions. We're also going to take some questions from Twitch chat as well, because I know we have chat available, and we've been pulling some throughout the actual broadcast themselves. So I know first question that we have, and this is kind of a popular question that we've gotten a lot from a lot of people, because they want to hear more about some of the progression systems and the end game systems that are coming to Diablo 4. And I will say that I can guarantee you that we actually have a lot of progression and end game items that we do want to talk about, and it's going to come shortly after beta. We actually even have a live stream that we are going to be planning after beta that we're going to be dedicating on those specific topics, because there's a ton to kind of go over that. So you guys are going to see a ton of videos and a live stream and so forth dedicated to all those specific pieces, because
and I will watch
one
all
of
of
the
them
big things that everyone's asking
and
about.
live
like,
react to them too.
How can I progress my character, or how can I continue playing, especially through the end game system? So expect that right after beta. It'll be shortly after beta. We're excited to share all that stuff with everyone from that end. Another question that we get is, is there a, let me see, do we have another question on the there we go. Is there a limit on the number of people you can see in the open world?
Oh, sure, yeah. So there is a limit on the number of people you'll see at any one time. And it adjusts dynamically depending on the kind of content you're doing, right? We want the exploration of the open world to feel like Diablo, to feel like a desolate place. If
Makes sense.
you're running around in this harsh world and you're being tasked to do things, or you're trying to defeat evil, but there are 20 other people defeating the same evil at the same time, you really lose that sense of a Diablo experience, right? And so we've been very careful, and we've actually been tuning it throughout the development process, tuning exactly how many people you'll see when you're out exploring an open world area. You know, Art was just talking about strongholds, and strongholds and dungeons are completely private experiences, so you'll only see people that you've invited to your party, or if you don't invite anyone, you won't.
Do we know
see
the
anyone,
maximum
right?
party size? Did they ever
Of course,
confirm that?
When you're in public spaces, or when a stronghold becomes a public space, you'll start to see other people there, but you won't see a whole lot of people in those areas because of that sense of exploration and experience there. Now, when you're doing content that benefits from having lots of people at once, like
Are you going to get any
Java,
numbers?
you're doing World Boss,
itself,
in the
yeah.
beta, or you're doing an event that the world has events that show up dynamically. If you're doing events like that, you might see more players congregate in that area.
How many
And
more?
then when you
Like
go to
4,
a
5,
town,
8?
That's where you're going to.
We know it's 12 for world bosses.
See everyone else's cool gear, and you can form parties and engage in various social activities with other players there. So our town hubs, if you're thinking about Kyovashad and open beta, you'll see lots.
I wonder
you'll
if
feel like a city
people will
there,
benefit
where
from
people
buffs.
roam
Like, I
around,
assume there's
and
probably
then
going to be
head out
auras and
into
stuff
the frozen wasteland. It'll feel like
without being in a party.
Awesome. Very cool. I know we have.
Or if you do a
few other
world boss,
questions
if you
here
suddenly have to
that
be
I'm
like,
just gonna,
quick, party up so we can all get
fire
buffs or
up
whatever.
as I kind of see them. One quick question. I know people are asking if you can stream the beta. You most definitely can stream the beta.
I'm also assuming they didn't give direct, specific numbers because they are probably going to adjust it based on feedback.
That will all be available specifically from that. And
Like if people are like, there's too many people, then they'll reduce it even further.
Regarding Diablo 4, I know we had talked about, well, at least Joe and I have talked about this specifically, that it does, the game does support ultra wide for the game itself.
That'd be nice. I have an ultra wide.
The super ultra wide or something. There might be like.
Yeah, we support up to 3:1.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the resolutions. I'm like, I don't.
So if you have an ultra wide monitor, you're gonna get to see more of the world. If you have
So if you're 21:9, you're good.
Super ultra wides, you will see black bars on the side.
Awesome.
And if you're having a
And then,
ridiculous Samsung
controller support,
40 odd inch one, then you won't.
you can play on PC and use a controller.
Absolutely, that's the main way that I.
The Samsung Odyssey G9 or something like that.
And fun fact is, it's a really great way.
I also know how to use a mouse.
Yeah, it's a great way of grabbing shots too. If you're like
Control spot's good.
Something like that gives you a stable hand for sure. Let's see. Is open beta for anyone who may have purchased the base edition? Yes. If you pre-order at all, you get actually access to the early access beta, so you can actually even play the weekend beforehand. And then of course, open beta is just open for everyone from that end. Is Diablo 4 going to have seasons like 3? So Diablo 4 will have seasons. We're actually going to have more information on.
Don't delay it. Just do it right off the bat.
The first season of
Please.
Diablo 4 as we get closer to launch, specifically from on that end. I think we had talked about in the last stream that the first season of Diablo 4 will end up starting a little after launch. So the initial game will launch during like kind of a preseason or something.
The reason I don't want that is because it would be like a month. And it's like, cool, I've leveled up this character that I'm now never going to like continue with because the new season started. Like, no. Just do it from, like, maybe if it's a week or something, so I don't get too far into the game. Because then you end up not wanting to, like, play as much. Like, I want to invest time into my seasonal character, bro.
So from that end.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about sort of the scope and breadth of seasons, how expansive they are, as we get a little bit closer here, and we'll be able to talk more specifically about what kinds of stuff are coming to season 1 and our plans to really expand that feature. But the key thing to know is that our ambition here is to make the seasons substantially meatier than we've seen in the past. Like, we really want this to be a live game that's changing with every season, introducing new gameplay.
Really hope so.
And
If they can like mimic GGG and with PoE in terms of how much content there is, I'll be happy.
Developing.
There was a question about, because I know we
In
had
terms
talked
of
about this,
like
when,
per
during,
season. I don't mean
Diablo 4
altogether.
was
That'll
originally
take a long
announced,
time.
Runes and rune words and so forth. Question about runes and rune words, are they going to be available in Diablo 4 like right at launch, or is there any plans in the future and so forth in that sense?
Yeah, so this is one of the really interesting things about developing developing the game. And
The answer's
showing
no.
we've tried.
But it's funny you say that,
talk about everything
because we've taken them out of the game again.
And one effect of that is that because the game is in development, we're experimenting with things, and we're if you look at some of the shots of the skill tree that we've showed, it's changed dramatically. As we've looked at player feedback from showing it off. That's the great thing about.
I will say they have generally responded to feedback pretty well. Like the original skill tree was a literal tree.
That sometimes we'll announce features like RuneWords.
I'm still apprehensive that there isn't enough passives
We'll realize
built into it
that,
though.
like, you know what, this needs more time to get right. And we know, especially with something like RuneWords, that it's something that players, because it's an existing concept in Diablo, right? Like if we made up a name and said, oh, here's this new system and it's super cool and here's what it does, great, no problem. But if we say, oh, here's this new system and it's RuneWords, and players say, well, I remember what RuneWords were and this is not RuneWords, then we need to make sure that we're fulfilling the player expectations there.
TLDR, that's exactly what happened. Because they did announce they were looking at bringing back RuneWords. If I remember rightly, RuneWords were always going to consist of 2 runes. And you'd have like an X and a Y rune. And there would be different types of X rune and different types of Y rune. And you had to combine them to get specific RuneWords. And I think generally a lot of people were like, that's a bit wank. Can't you just make them like they are in Diablo 2? So I think that's why they've taken them out. That's basically what happened.
There. And so that's something that we plan to return to in the future.
Cool, awesome. In the game, are
Yeah, they
there,
do,
like,
Adam.
achievements and so forth?
They were a good
for
chase
players to
item.
Potentially, like
Chasing down the rare runes.
I guess it's almost kind of like we kind of most definitely have some sort of way of being able to track like specific goals or whatnot within the game.
Oh yeah, of course. So yeah, there are achievements. There are also a number of challenges that you can do. There are class-based challenges. There are challenges that are associated with particular content. All kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, and some of those challenges unlock even like things like.
Just off the back of that, I reckon as well, one of the reasons they probably did like the 2 rune thing, because when you think about it, and the most recent update to Diablo 2 will probably back what I'm saying up, is that RuneWords are probably really hard to balance. Because you got to take into consideration what the RuneWords can be put into, how rare the runes are, and then what the RuneWords consist of in terms of runes, and then what the RuneWords actually do. And the reason that's like such a big deal is because in Diablo 2 there are some RuneWords that have really rare runes, but no one uses them because the actual overall weapon is a bit wank and not worth putting the runes in. Whereas there are others where it's like these are basically mandatory. Like they just did I think it was like 4 helmets that I was looking at. They announced it on the PTR. I don't know if there was more, but I remember they showed 4 of them, and they all varied in a slightly different way. Like one did poison reduction, but otherwise had the same stats as another. One did like all res or something like that, and then there was one that was noticeably better than the other 3, even though they were all for the same level and just slightly different rune words. I think it was called Bulwark or something like that, and it had damage reduction and all sorts of stuff in it, and it was like demonstrably like going to be used infinitely more, even to late game. It was like a level 35 rune word. So I suspect that's probably why they went for the 2 rune thing, to make it a little bit easier to balance. And they're probably also trying to work out how they will fit in with other items, because we already know they're going to be doing like legendaries and ancient legendaries and primal ancient legendaries or whatever kind of thing. So they're probably thinking to themselves, do we want RuneWords to have more potential power than our biggest legendary weapons and that sort of thing? So I imagine it is a balancing nightmare, but the nostalgic little teenage boy in me is like, hello, get back the normal RuneWords, please. Sorry to everyone's ears, by the way.
What we talked about even during beta, where just getting to like Kiova Shot, for instance, ended up unlocking like a title or whatnot. So
a title, and when you get to level 20, you get that Beta Wolf pack.
Exactly.
With the Wolf Pup.
Exactly. I know there's a question about like WASD movement. I say it WASD. Some people call it WASD keyboard movement on Diablo 4. People are asking if potentially there was that within D4.
Yeah, so we've tried to extend the... So we don't support WASD movement at launch. Let me be clear on that. But what we have tried to do is really expand the way that you can customize the way you're playing, both for accessibility reasons and also because people just have lots of different ways they want to play Diablo. And we recognize that some folks want to play WASD movement, and it's something we'll continue to look at.
There's a lot Lost Ark. I haven't played in a while. Is it Lost Ark that has WASD? WASD. WASD's nuts. Yeah.
What's on your left mouse
I'm so
button.
childish.
Our engineers have put a lot of work into like.
I can imagine it
even
being good
things
for
like, do I want-
accessibility,
If I
but
bind something else to my left mouse button, am I going to like click to move forward, or can I move those bindings around? So
that's
you have
nice.
a lot of control over which skills are in which slots and how you want to interact with the game, and of course with the controller as well.
And I know like this kind of like segues into another question I just saw, I'm going to call out names. RRMXX Intuition ended up calling out. That's why I'm not calling out names. I'm going to butcher everyone's name. But they were asking about like accessibility options within Diablo 4. And I know we have a team that is like our UI and UX teams have been like super dedicated on making sure that we can hit as many audiences as possible with D4. And we actually are planning on going into like a detailed like summary of all the accessibility options that are going to be incorporated into D4, so that obviously more players can enjoy and take part in the world of Sanctuary. So it's actually really cool. So
Yay.
we'll be going into more
more accessibility.
Party size. A lot of people are asking like
More
how
people can play.
big are parties within D4 specifically?
4 players.
4 players.
4.
There you go.
Okay.
Easy going. Let's see.
I will always miss the 8 players from Diablo 2
I know
though.
we haven't gone into like details about like skins in store. We will before launch, but so we'll get back to like purchase skins and being available on all characters and stuff. We'll have a whole detailed list on that. And then
I understand why though.
A fun question for you guys.
Lagging
what are your
all
favorite classes, and would you guys plan on maining during launch? Each of you, I guess.
All right, I'll start.
Art's just
usually
like,
say
fuck, I don't know.
and that's mostly because I think we did such an incredible job in fulfilling the fantasy of having like a hybrid melee ranged class, where I can take like skills that are ranged skills and skills that are melee skills and really use them seamlessly between. That's actually something that sort of we got when we developed the Barbarian. We knew we wanted to have this weapon master that's wielding just lots and lots of different weapons. And so we developed the arsenal system for the Barbarian. And a consequence of that development is that it solved this sort of problem.
For those not familiar with the arsenal system, basically the barb will whip out a different weapon depending on what skills you're using. So he'll have like a big beefy 2-hander on his back, and then like 2 1-handers at his sides, and there might be one skill that's all dual wieldy, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to do Hammer of the Ancients or the equivalent of, so I'm going to whip out my 2-hander as I press that skill, for example. Things like that, which is kind of cool. Very, very cool. I wonder again how it affects balancing though, because does that mean you won't have the benefits from a weapon unless it's unsheathed in terms of affixes, or does that mean the barb has all the affixes because he's going to have like a 2-hander, 2 1-handers and whatever else? Because that's going to be gnarly and like super strong if it's the latter.
We had with like, well, do I have, if I'm a ranged class like a rogue that also, part of the fantasy is being a ranged class or a melee class or some mix, and do I have to like go into my inventory and switch to my melee weapons, and how does that work, right? So we're able to use some of that same tech to make it really, really a fun experience.
That's cool.
Nice.
What about you, Mom?
I'll mostly focus on playing. My first character will be a sorceress because I have that fun memory, like farming Mephisto with
All those D2 memories.
yeah, with my lightning static sorcerers, and also I play a lot of sorcerers also in Diablo 3. So it's I'm always like get like emotional with the fire code and the lightning kind of a fantasy of sorcerers.
For me, I think it's a tough choice between Rogue. Like Joe said, I really like the kind of like positional requirements and the fast movement pace of playing that character. Or
I do like that as well.
I really like the kind
The
of
rogue
hybrid
does look like it has
element.
high
I've been
mobility.
having a lot of fun with like kind of hybrid werewolf caster builds, experimenting with them lately. So I think that might be what I'll go with on release.
Yeah, I think for me, Druid for sure.
I'll be playing all of them,
Druid
but rogue is what I'll
when
probably
the
start with,
expansion for D2 came out, I just dropped.
and then I'll like alternate between ranged and magic or some shit.
And I've always loved playing that type of class fantasy in any type of game, even like WoW, for instance. I always played Druid. But I will say Rogue is really good. Rogue has like if you want flashy, Rogue is most definitely super flashy. Like the idea that they even have skills where you can like literally throw your daggers into someone and then jump to them is like the most flashy thing in the world. So
It's anime.
I'm going to end with one last question.
The rogue is the anime emo character.
Trading within Diablo 4, and I think there's like nuances and so forth. But people are asking, is there trading in D4? Because obviously, like D3, it was almost non-existent. So yeah, it's curious to know how that works in D4.
Yeah, we get this question a lot, and we're continuing to, trading in D4 is less restrictive than it is in D3, but it's by no means wide open trading. And we know that there are lots of players who enjoy the trading, like enjoy the game for the trading experience, and that those players would like to have, as few restrictions on trading as possible. And so we want to support that to the extent that we can, but we also want to protect the core game loop of killing monsters to get loot, right? And so there are some restrictions on trading to further encourage the situation where the best way to get the most powerful loot is to kill monsters. That's sort of our overriding directive there. But when you think about all the stuff that we're doing that we plan to do with seasons and the game being a live service, we could certainly see opportunities for different trading rule sets in the future.
Cool, awesome. And I'm gonna.
I think Last Epoch have done it really well with the recent trade blog that they did. For those who don't know, Last Epoch are implementing a faction system, and you can either join the Circle of Fortune faction, which basically means solo self-found effectively. You can't trade with anyone, but you get benefits to make finding items and target farming easier. Or you can join the Guild of the Merchants, and that basically gives you like open trading. However, you have to gain faction rep, so you can't just be like, aha, I'm a bot, I'm gonna farm and sell everything, blah, 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 and it's all automated and I'm rich, and basically fuck with the market and stuff like that. You have to actually put time and effort into leveling your character up and actually getting reputation, which isn't going to be a barrier of entry to everyone. Obviously, the most dedicated botters and stuff are still going to do it anyway, but it's going to be significant enough to mitigate like the casual players from doing stupid shit with bots and RMT or whatever. And I think that's really good. I think you can't trade materials though, from what I remember. So hopefully, maybe they can implement a similar system. Because at the end of the day, we know, yes, I understand that they want it to be farming for loot is the primary way to find your best loot. But let's be real, they're obviously trying to curb RMT and probably botting and other things. And it's like, is the best way to do that by removing or gimping a feature? Or is the best way to do that to find a solution to the actual problem itself? You know, I don't want a feature to be removed at the expense of trying to prevent RMT and stuff like that, especially when it doesn't affect me and I don't care anyway. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they copy more Last Epoch, because Last Epoch, I think I've thought of a really clever way to get around that.
Answer this really quickly because everyone's like.
And it's not
spamming it.
perfect. It's never going to
Yes,
be
there are
perfect
treasure
because
goblins.
you'll never be hackers at the end of the day. So they'll keep innovating
They were like,
on
are
each
there
other.
goblins? Are there goblins? Yes, there are treasure goblins in Diablo 4. So,
Sure, cool.
thank you guys for joining us today on the Diablo 4 live stream. I will note this is actually the end of where we will be talking about some Diablo 4 stuff. We do have one last thing we do want to do. This is not related to Diablo 4, so
Okay. So that was a loud chat. That was cool. Like, some feedback overall, Adam, if you ever watch this, you probably won't. I like that you went ham with the armor discussion. However, it was kind of weird to be like, here's lots of depth and detail about one system, and here's lots of vague stuff in like the second half. Like, ideally, what you should do is to keep the retention of the audience on the live stream is keep it all like bite-sized and vague, like the second half, and then just have dedicated VODs for like the in-depth stuff, because then the people like me that like that and do the theory crafting can watch that, and then you won't lose the interest of all the people who are just like, I want to kill shit, shut up kind of thing. Another bit of feedback, turn the gain down on the mics, boys. Turn down the gain so it's only picking up their voice, and then turn up the volume so we can hear the voices clearly. That's the way to do it. Otherwise, like, it was a cool stream. Obviously, these guys are probably not used to doing live streams and production. They probably are used to doing videos like the World of Sanctuary one they recently did. So, you know, I can forgive them for their mistakes. Although that cameraman walking into the shot was a very amateur move. That was very silly. Overall, though, the armor stuff they talked about, I thought that was, you know, a lot of it was pretty standard. I like that they did give us a bit more information. I think the numbers could have been presented in a slightly better format. I think they tried to give us a lot of information, but at the same time, not quite enough. So, like, the one where it's like, this is what happens with 2,000 armor, and it's like, okay, but that in itself is going to change depending on what your character level is. So, if you're going to have a static number, you need to tell the audience, the people interpreting the information, all the static numbers. But I did like that they went in depth. But yeah, it did seem pretty standard. I understood why they're doing a lot of things they're doing, like to reduce the numbers by adding armor to monsters instead of just giving them a massive spongy health pools. I get that. I do wonder if there is a difference in feel in like comparison to, say, having a monster with 10,000 or 10 billion health or whatever number, and then going, okay, let's reduce that health but give them more damage mitigation. Does that feel different? And I suppose for some people the answer to that is going to be yes, and that's because of the numbers that are appearing on screen and how they perceive that power, maybe. Some people might be like, I want big dick numbers, I want to know that I'm hitting a dude for 17 trillion damage because I am a beef castle. But then some of the people are like, I don't know what that number was, kind of thing. So I get it, I do get it. But I am intrigued. I do wish that I had the opportunity to see and play and experience the difference between the two and see how that would feel for me. Mostly out of curiosity. Ultimately, I don't give a shit. What else was there? There was the Strongholds look cool. Strongholds do look cool. My concern is that they're going to have lots of dedicated points of interest and then big open empty spaces in between them, and you don't get your mount until you've finished the campaign, I believe. So leveling might feel a bit like, oh, I did something really cool and now I'm running for 5 minutes. Oh, I'm doing something really cool and now I'm running for 10 minutes and so on and so forth. Because that was some of the feedback they had in the beta that was under NDA, and then people just apparently didn't obey the NDA, but oh well. But yeah, overall, I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do. There are some things that I have concerns about, like the skill system. I'm concerned it's going to be a little bit shallow, but I'm not expecting the complexity of Path of Exile. The engine and the visual aspect, I think, is fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do with RTX. I don't have RTX yet, but I will one day, and when I do, I'm going to bask in it, especially if it's in Diablo 4. But yeah, overall, cool. Enjoy the stream. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the end game stuff, and I can't remember what they said they were going to talk about to the live stream during the beta, but I'll probably watch it after I've played the beta. Or maybe when I'm eating lunch during a stream at some point or whatever. I'll probably book some time off as well, so I get the Fridays off so you guys can watch. If you're not familiar, I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/BryanThePirate. That's going to be it for me on this one. Obviously, if you're in the stream, stick around. But if you're watching this on YouTube, like, follow, subscribe, buy a burrito. I don't know. Make yourself happy. And thank you for watching. Bye-bye.